Once the subconscious mind is rewired, then you are, to use that driving analogy, you're just showing up to a different destination. You're just going somewhere different. And that's pretty cool because it has ripple effects into your existence, right? That client, that subconscious belief that she rewired, it's letting her make strides in her life a lot faster, a lot smoother, a lot more easily than previously. And so her life is moving forward in a different way. Ketamine Connections, welcome back. Wow, we are in the 50s. This is episode 51, which means we are so close to that year mark. And today's episode is a little bit more casual for me, just in terms of the preparation and the intention here. As we round out a year of this show, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of data of what you guys are listening to, what you're coming back to. We also have emails from y'all that are helping us understand what you want more of. And one of the topics that is my biggest passion in this life is the subconscious mind, which is exactly what ketamine helps transform. And nonetheless, y'all are telling me you don't know what the subconscious mind is. You want more episodes about what it is and how to access it. I mean, one of the episodes that is still most downloaded of the show is the first one, is the subconscious mind even real, which says so much about how little knowledge we have about something that is 95% of our brain. Now, we're not going to get too much into the science, right? Fireside chat is more casual. The science of the subconscious mind, where it lives, how it's formed, how to change it really in a robust way, is all stuff that I teach inside the Ketamine Preparation Protocol. So if you want to geek out on the subconscious mind with me, join me there. We also have live calls every month in the program. And the reason that is because after 8 years of teaching people about the subconscious mind, of helping people transform their subconscious mind, literally performed hundreds of sessions at this point. What I know to be true is that I can brain dump this information on you, and it might be really fun intellectual floss. Maybe you'll remember something that you'll mention at a cocktail party or that will come up in a trivia night. I don't know. But the thing that I know to be true is that if you want this information to change your life, there needs to be a more robust system around it. You need more support than to just kind of understand what it is, where it lives, and how it's formed. There's a whole language to the subconscious mind. There is an art to accessing and getting to know the subconscious mind. And it's much more than I can get into in this episode. And nonetheless, I want to satisfy your thirst for knowledge, especially when you're thirsty for the knowledge that I'm so passionate about, which is the subconscious mind. And also, aside from a fireside chat, getting back to the roots of this show, which is talking about the subconscious mind, I had a really fun conversation with a client this week. It's a conversation that I have had often, if I'm being honest, but I haven't had it in a while. And so it was kind of fun to revisit this. So the conversation went something like this. I'm on a call with a client and she says, "Oh, yeah, I used to believe this thing and now I don't. And it's really helping me progress in life in XYZ way because, wow, if I still believe that, then I wouldn't be able to make all these strides forward and my life wouldn't look so different." And I sat there and I let her talk it out and get to the end of her thought. And I very calmly and very graciously said, "Yeah, I know. We worked on that belief for about 3 months." And she was surprised and also really open minded and also gracious in the conversation to allow me to let her know that, yeah, we actually worked on that belief for a while. It was deeply ingrained, and that this is just a part of my work. I often don't get the credit or the acknowledgement about how powerful this work is of subconscious reprogramming, because when the change happens at a root level, the way that it does with subconscious reprogramming, there is a literal disconnect from that belief where it feels like a memory or a dream or something that isn't even a part of your own makeup, of your own DNA, because it's been taken out. And the way that we talk about it a lot in the subconscious reprogramming world is a tree, right? So you have this belief and it's a tree. And so there's all of these limbs, right? There's all of these branches, and those branches have branches, and those branches have leaves. And those you can think of as ways that that belief manifests in your everyday life, or the way that you perpetuate that belief in your existence. Now, with subconscious reprogramming, when it's done accurately, when it's done well, when it's done with intention and care, you go in and you chop the root and the whole tree comes down. And when that happens, that pattern is totally gone. And when that pattern is gone, it ripples through change in the subconscious mind in a really unique way where the entire makeup is different, right? You can change your entire existence by changing one belief, because those all the beliefs that you have are working symbiotically together. And so that's the inspiration for today's episode, is this casual conversation with a client that I've had so many times, honestly, about how, oh yeah, that thing I used to believe, or like, oh, that thing, like, wouldn't it be silly if I believe that thing? And me, just because it's not my subconscious, I have that about my own subconscious rewiring, trust me. But when it's not mine, I'm able to have more scope and more insight into that belief and how it's been excavated, and also have a lot of satisfaction in knowing that that client's life is totally transformed because this belief is transformed. So that's the first topic that I'll cover in today's show. I mean, maybe second, I don't know. Like I said, this is a casual chat, so we're going to stay casual, as this disbelief about whether it's possible to reprogram the subconscious mind. Now, if you are listening to this and you're in that inquiry for yourself, a loved one, or just in general of, whoa, is it actually possible to rewire the brain? Let me just say that it's really common to have this question, and that is because the brain is an organ, and all of our organs have a maturation date, meaning that they mature, they grow, and then they're done growing. And it used to be believed that the brain was like that as well, that the brain grew until the age of 35. And then after that, that's it, right? Something like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks comes from that old belief. Nonetheless, there's been research done since the 1970s that has proven otherwise, that has shown that we can change our brain up until the day that we die, that it's more malleable than previously thought. Now, the way that I like to think about the subconscious mind is like a path in the woods, right? I love hiking. I love spending time out in nature. I often go off trail. And if you think about a trail in the woods, right? If you go off trail like I do, well, you're stepping on weird stuff, you're walking through cobwebs, you're picking branches out of the way. You're not on a path, right? You're off path. Now, if you continue walking that path and it becomes more well grooved, for example, then over time it becomes solidified, right? It becomes stomped down, right? It would take a long time of people not walking on that path for the grass to regrow and the vegetation to replenish. And that's how I think of it in the subconscious mind, is every time you think a thought, you repeat a pattern, you exist as you are, right? As just you in the world every day, not thinking about it. We're talking about the default mode network. You're recalcifying, you're rewalking that same path. Now, when you have been doing this for 20, 30, 80 years, it's harder to change that path, right? It's going to take more effort, more intention, more work to walk a different path, right? You've been walking this path on automatic for as long as you've been walking it. And so, yeah, there might be more work that needs to be done. There might be more intention. There are definitely ways to speed up that process and make the change faster no matter your age. But nonetheless, your brain can change at any age. You can rewire your thought patterns, rewire your subconscious. And that's something that I really want everybody to know is how malleable, how plastic the brain is, and how you really can rework that into whatever it is that you want to believe. Now, I want to be really clear about what I'm not talking about here. I'm not talking about willpower. Willpower is an exhaustible resource. We can only make a certain amount of decisions in a day, which is why so many of us in our modern lifestyles are so exhausted, is because we're on this rat race making decision after decision. What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? Which way am I going to drive to work? Like all of these things that we are so used to are actually depleting our willpower. One of my favorite stories about Obama in office is that he actually let his team decide things like what suit he was going to wear, what he was going to eat, and all of these little decisions so that he could save his willpower muscle for the bigger decisions that he needed to make as president. And that's also, if you look at Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, they tend to wear the same clothing. I mean, I know Steve Jobs is dead, but back then, right, he wore the same thing over and over. Why? Because they know better than to exhaust their willpower, exhaust their decision making on such a small decision that is not anywhere near important in the list of decisions that they make in a day. And so we're not talking about willpower. Now, with this client conversation that we had, this is exactly why this new way of being stood out to her so much. It's because she wasn't using willpower to be different in the world. It was just happening on automatic. She was just showing up differently, making the decisions and acting from a place that was so radically different than how she used to be, how she was raised, how she spent most of her 30 something years living. And that had to do with this subconscious reprogramming piece where we got in, we got at the root, we rewired the subconscious mind, and now it's happening on automatic and you don't have to think about it. It's like if you just moved somewhere new or you're visiting somewhere new and you're driving to a new location, you're paying attention to your GPS, you're monitoring the roads. Now, after however long it takes you, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year, you can just drive there on automatic. And I think a lot of us that have experienced driving, especially in routine ways, have the experience of showing up somewhere that we're used to driving a lot and just not even realizing how we got there. That is a common experience. And that shows the power of the subconscious mind being on automatic. And you can get in there and you can rewire whatever thought patterns, habit patterns, whatever it is, so that you are showing up at the destination that you want, thinking the thoughts that you want, repeating the patterns that you want, showing up to life the way that feels more aligned with your highest and greatest expression rather than whatever you picked up as a kid or whatever you observe out in the world. I know that personally, my life does not look like anything I've seen in the media. I have a lot of different values. I show up really differently in the world, and I have for a long time, mostly because this subconscious piece has really brought me into connection with my authenticity. And it just happens to look a lot different than how things look out in the world. And also, I was raised in a different culture and have brought a lot of those values back into my adulthood after straying from them for a while throughout my 20s to fit in more, which I'm not as interested in these days. So I dropped a fact on you earlier that the subconscious mind is 95% of your brain. And I want to mention a few things that live in that 95%. One, you have your parasympathetic nervous system. You have your entire nervous system, but thinking about the parts of your nervous system that run on automatic. We could not function in our modern society if we had to remind our lungs to breathe and our heart to breathe and our food to digest and all of these things that happen on automatic is a part of that 95%. It's also where an account of your entire life lives. Every single memory lives in the subconscious mind. The ones that are most pristine are the ones that you don't remember. The reason that is that every time you remember a memory, you are pulling it up and you're getting your like fingerprints on it. So when you put it back down, it changes. And if you have a sibling, a best friend, or even with your parents or family of origin, anyone that you grew up with, you might have this experience of having a really different memory of something. And you maybe get into like a very innocent, hopefully kind-hearted sort of discussion of like, no, that car was red. No, it was yellow. No, it happened like this. No, it happened like that. And that is because our memories are unreliable sources of information, especially when they've been repeated a lot and recounted a lot. It's actually, memories are such unreliable sources of information that in first eye accounts in court cases, they can be thrown out because we know that memories are just not reliable. And so that is something that lives in the subconscious mind as well. And so you can play with that in your favor. You can rewire your memories. And actually, I've done this for years for myself and in client work and continue to do so. It's one of my most access techniques is to help clients rewire memories so that they land differently. Because when the memory is different, then it's able to have a different effect, right? When you remember something from a woe is me, oh, that terrible thing happened to me, and now I have this imprint of that awful thing, it registers in the nervous system a lot different. It registers in your subconscious and in how you play out your adult life a lot differently than when you are, for example, oh, that terrible thing happened, and look at how it empowered me to get over it. Look at all of the ways that I have moved past it. And we all love a good rag to riches come up story. I mean, we have so many of them in society. We love people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. And you can do that for yourself by accessing this power of your subconscious mind and your memories. And again, this is getting a little more technical than I want to for the show. This is all topics that we cover inside the Ketamine Preparation Protocol. And also, we have live calls where people can come in and ask these questions, and we can do more techniques in person. Well, on Zoom in person, meaning like live calls, then we're able to do, like if I just dump this information on you, I don't have the full confidence that you know how to use it responsibly, that you're not going to potentially do more damage. And it is something that I feel needs to be used responsibly. So that is something that I do a lot more with inside the Ketamine Preparation Protocol so that you can have that full information there. And so once the brain is rewired, what happens? Again, going back to the client story from the beginning of this episode, once the subconscious mind is rewired, then you are, to use that driving analogy, you're just showing up to a different destination. You're just going somewhere different. And that's pretty cool because it has ripple effects into your existence, right? That client, that subconscious belief that she rewired, it's letting her make strides in her life a lot faster, a lot smoother, a lot more easily than previously. And so her life is moving forward in a different way. Once the subconscious mind is rewired, you don't have to, again, you don't use willpower, you don't use active conscious information, right? If the subconscious mind is 95%, the conscious mind is 5%, right? And so you don't have to use that really small bank, a pool of resources to do something over and over. Your life is able to flow easily. If you're using willpower, you are basically swimming against the current of the river. And once you rewire that, once you turn your boat around, life just flows a lot smoother. Now, there is a fun exercise I want to leave you with at the end of this show. If you are watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment. I would love to hear how this lands for you. you. If you're watching this or listening to this rather in the audio version, then I would love for you to shoot me an email and let me know how this goes. One of the easiest ways that I like to kind of demonstrate rewiring the subconscious mind is to invite you to brush your teeth with the opposite hand than you normally do. I'm a righty. I've been brushing my teeth with my right hand most of my life. And I mean, it's been a decade now that I've been practicing brushing with my other hand, and it's almost natural. I mean, honestly, guys, I practice this at night. It's not a morning thing for me. I'm tired. I'm like, it's just like I go to the place of least resistance. But I will say that after many years of practicing this on and off, not with any sort of diligence, my left hand is actually starting to feel pretty natural. So that's a fun way for you to kind of understand what you're up against when you are rewiring the subconscious mind. Now, that's all I have for you today. I just wanted a quickie episode to kind of follow up on this topic of the subconscious mind. If this is something you want to dive deeper into, again, the Ketamine Preparation Protocol, we go into a lot of detail about this. We talk about the language of the subconscious mind, how it's formed, where it lives, tools to rewire it, and again, you have that live support with those calls around it as well. So if you're feeling called to that, head to the link in the show notes, and I would love to see you in there. And thanks for tuning in. Some of you have been here like from the start for almost a whole year. If that's you, shoot me an email. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you next time. Please stay curious. My name is Anna, and this is Ketamine Connections. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into Ketamine Connections with me today. If this episode supported you, the best way to say thank you is by sharing it or leaving a review. And if you're enjoying the show and you want to connect more, I would love to see you on my newsletter. That is where I share behind the scenes insights, thoughtful guidance, and other parts of your ketamine journey. Never spam, always fun. And honestly, since getting kicked off of social media in 2024, it's where I share the real stuff. I share stories, tools, updates that I don't post anywhere else. So sign up at any of the links in the show notes, and you'll be the first to know when I'm hosting live Q&A or when I'm doing other fun things that are not available anywhere else. It's the best place to hear about it, stay connected, and grow together. All right, that is all I have for today. Thank you. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.